Ukraine waited for Russia's greatest factory to reach full power, Kalin, and then in one night erased it from the map in just 27 minutes. For 3 relentless months, Moscow's headlines praised a miracle of industry, the Voronezh 12 complex, a 2 million square foot plant assembling over 40 Shahed UAVs every single day, feeding Russia's southern offensives with mechanical wings of fire. To them, it was proof that mass production could outlast precision. But Ukraine saw something else, a heartbeat too, predictable to miss. So it waited 2,400 hours of surveillance, 72 satellite passes. Not a single shot fired until the output reached its peak. Then came 3:15 a.m. fog so dense even heat sensors failed. 36 Ram 3A drones lifted off from the border, carrying 2.5 tons of payload, moving like whispers through a sleeping empire. What followed wasn't an airist strike. It was a countdown, a silent equation written across the night sky. 3:15 a.m., deep inside Kursk Oblast, Russia. 36 Ukrainian Ram 3A drones sliced through the night at 3:10. Their carbon fiber wings reflecting no light. They carried a combined payload of just over 2.5 tons of precision-shaped explosives, enough to erase a football field-sized complex in seconds. Their destination, the Voron 12 UAV plant, a 2.3 million square foot facility that had become the beating heart of Russia's drone empire. Each day, it produced 42 Shade-type airframes worth nearly $100 million in monthly output. By June, production had surged to 200 units per month, fueling strikes across the Black Sea corridor. To Russia, Voron 12 was untouchable. Its perimeter was ringed by 3 Nebu radars, 4 Pantsir S, 2 launchers, and a newly upgraded S-350 Vityaz grid, forming what Moscow called a layered dome. Inside the compound, technicians worked under banners, proclaiming industrial victory. 2025, even the local governor hosted nightly barbecues for officers, guarding the site. But 600 miles away, in a dim bunker outside Kyiv, Ukrainian analysts were quietly charting every pattern. 2,400 hours of satellite footage tracked, logged, analyzed. They timed every patrol, every radar sweep, even the frequency of smoke from the maintenance stacks. And somewhere in that ocean of data, they found the flaw. The night shift crew manning the Western Pantsir console was new, barely certified, averaging 120 operating hours compared to the veterans' 2,000. They routinely dismissed weak radar echoes below 300 FT as migratory birds from the Oka River Basin. That habit had been recorded 17 nights in a row. Kev's code name for the strike was Operation Glass Veil, a plan built on patience and precision. Success would inform 70% of Russia's Shahed output for months. Failure would cost Ukraine nearly $2 million in hardware and hand Moscow a propaganda victory. When atmospheric sensors finally reported 96% humidity, visibility under 80 yards, and wind drift below 5 knots, the decision was made. Operators confirmed the coordinates. Encryption keys rolled green. A single word left the command net. Execute Glass Veil. The swarm rose through the fog. 36 points of light, swallowed by cloud heading toward a factory that believed statistics equaled safety. Within 10 minutes, those statistics would become smoke. 3:17. The fog over Belgar thickened into a living wall. Humidity peaked at 96%. Visibility dropped below 70 yards, and even the infrared sensors on Russian patrol trucks began to blur. To the untrained eye, the night looked empty. To Ukraine's command center, it was the perfect storm. Inside a cramped mobile van hidden beneath camo netting near KKE, 6 operators sat in total silence. Their screens glowed blue with synchronized telemetry. Each heartbeat aligned with a digital clock counting down from 420 seconds. The time window before Russia's radar grid recalibrated. Spectre Noiv AI online. One voice whispered. The system began processing 87 live data feeds from satellites, weather radars, and an RQ-25 Raven. iDrone circling at 15,000 TLF. In milliseconds, it calculated thousands of micro-adjustments. Crosswinds, thermal drifts, even the reflective density of the fog itself. Then came the decoys, 12. British-made Banshee MC-2 drones ignited and roared into the air, climbing to 9,000 FT, broadcasting a radar signature identical to a squadron of MiG-29 seconds. Each decoy emitted a false pulse rate of 300 Hz, fooling Russian Nebo radars into believing a full-scale assault was inbound from the northwest. The real strike team 24 Ram-3 drones flew at treetop level, no higher than 90 FT their radar. Signature measured at just EWAM-5. They weren't visible, audible, or traceable. They were ghosts inside a storm. In the Russian control bunker 50 MW away, Warning klaxon screamed. Multiple high-speed targets. Sector 4. Within seconds, Russian operators saw what looked like 10 fighter jets diving toward their base. The veteran commander ordered, "Engage all primary threats." And that's exactly what Ukraine wanted. As the first Pantsir S-2 launcher locked on, missiles streaked skyward, vapor trails cutting through the clouds. The Russian crew cheered as bright orange explosions lit the horizon. 6 decoys, destroyed in 30 seconds. On their screens, the danger vanished. They thought the attack was over, but on the Ukrainian monitors, that chaos was gold. 30 seconds of radar blindness, 30 seconds to slip beneath the dome. Viewers, remember this moment. Those 30 seconds will decide everything that happens next. Because at 3:19 a.m., the real swarm enters the kill zone. 3:19 a.m., Russian radar screens erupted in color. Dozens of targets appeared at once, moving fast and high. Inside the Voron 12 command bunker, a veteran officer leaned over his display, eyes narrowing at the cluster of returns. Each blip reflected a velocity of 600 knots and a radar cross-section identical to a fighter jet. His decision was immediate. Engage. Full battery authorization. In less than 10 seconds, 4 Pantsir S-2 launchers came online. 169 M335 missiles leapt into the air, tracked and detonated among the clouds. The entire command room vibrated from the shockwaves. Operators cheered as the first decoys. The British-built Banshee Mk2 drones vanished in bursts of orange fire on the screens. The simulated formation of MiG-29 seconds began to dissolve. What the Russians didn't realize was that they were fighting ghosts. The 12 decoys had been designed to die. Their sacrifice wasn't failure. It was precision chaos. While the radar grid focused upward, the True Strike Package 24 Ram-3, a drone slipped through the southern perimeter at an altitude of just 92 ft, their thermal signatures, indistinguishable from the ground fog. Each unit flew only 40 mi apart, coordinated by the Spectre 9 AI, maintaining a staggered speed of 200 mph to avoid radar harmonics. From above, the Russian systems registered nothing but static. Their Nebo-U radar set to high-frequency scan could no longer detect the low-band echoes below 200 ft. The defense grid had blinded itself. Inside the Ukrainian van, the monitors pulsed with steady green lights. Phase 1 complete, a voice said quietly. The swarm was now inside the kill zone 12 mi from target, but the illusion was beginning to crack. By 3:21 a.m., the Russian commander noticed the mismatch between radar data and infrared sweeps. His instincts sharpened. He switched to the backup 92N6A array, manually widening its frequency gate. That adjustment changed everything. Suddenly, faint irregular traces appeared, uneven, shifting, but real. The system tagged them as low-mass anomalies. He frowned. "Those aren't birds," he muttered. In the next 40 seconds, the battlefield would shift again. The hunters who believed they had cleared the skies were about to discover they had only been shooting at shadows. 3:21 a.m., the illusion shattered. On the Russian command screens, the sky seemed clear. Yet the backup 92N6, a radar array, was whispering a different story. Faint irregular flickers appeared just above the ground. Clutter 24 blips, dancing erratically between 70 and 100 ft. The veteran commander recognized the pattern instantly. They weren't birds. They were hunters hiding beneath the static. He gave the order, "Target all anomalies. Fire on my mark." In the Ukrainian van, the Spectre 9 AI detected the change. A warning flashed. "Lock detected. 92N6A active." The swarm had only 4 minutes before missile impact. Then the AI executed its contingency Echo Mirage. All 24 drones split into 3 microformations. Their flight algorithm switching to a biological mimicry mode derived from 30,000 hours of AVAN telemetry, gathered over the Oka River basin. On radar, each UAV now fluttered like a migrating bird. Uneven, inconsistent, perfectly imperfect. For a brief moment it worked. The Russian junior crew manning the Pantsir consoles saw their radar return, dissolve into harmless noise. "Just birds," one of them said. But the veteran commander wasn't looking at radar. He was studying raw spectrum data, unfiltered, jagged, pure. And in that noise, he saw order. He manually boxed 14 contacts and designated them as hostiles. 4 missiles ignited. Each 9M3 through Teviv interceptor accelerated to Mach 2.7, climbing through the fog in a spiral plume. Within seconds, the Ukrainian operators saw the threat indicators blink red. At that exact moment, nature joined the battle. A violent wind shear of 28 mph slammed into the swarm from the north. 3 drones collided mid-air, vanishing in streaks of white flame. Their icons winked out one by one on the operator screens. Spectre 9 tried to stabilize the rest, adjusting pitch angles by 0.3 degrees per millisecond, but it was too late. The missiles were already closing. Then came the counterstroke. Each surviving Ram 3A deployed an EL-55 decoy pod, releasing a false radar echo 120 times stronger than the real signature. 4 missiles swerved violently off course, detonating Vien-200F away, their explosions echoing like thunder across the fog. The Russian crew froze. Their screens went blank. For the first time that night, the hunters realized they were blind. 3:23 a.m. silence returned to the sky. The radar screens inside the Russian command post flickered back to green, showing nothing but atmospheric noise. The commander leaned forward, confused. His last volley had vanished into fog and fire, and now the horizon looked empty. He didn't know the truth. The drones were already inside the perimeter. 21 Ukrainian Ram 3A units remained. Each carried a 7.8 kilogram tandem charge warhead optimized for internal detonation. At a combined altitude of 85 ft, they accelerated to 290 mph, aligning perfectly with the vector wind of 27 mph coming from the northwest. Spectre 9 AI recalculated the strike pattern in real time. It divided the swarm into 3 coordinated attack groups: Falcon, Viper, and Echo. Falcon targeted the main assembly hangar, a steel giant spanning 320,000 square ft. Viper was assigned to the electronic systems warehouse, storing lithium batteries and guidance chips. Echo, the smallest group, was bound for the central control building, the heart of production. At 3:26 a.m., the first strike began. Drone F-7 pierced through the roof of the main hangar, punching a hole 20 in wide before its warhead detonated with a 0.7-second delay, just long enough for the blast to build pressure within the sealed structure. The explosion didn't burst outward, it imploded. Inside, the pressure wave reached 29,000 psi, shredding circuit boards, wiring harnesses, and over 200 unfinished shade airframes. The reinforced roof caved in, dragging 50 tons of steel beams onto the assembly line. Simultaneously, Group Viper struck the warehouse. The resulting firestorm ignited 15,000 lithium cells, creating a plasma bloom that sensors later recorded at 1600 C. In less than 1 minute, the storage complex became a molten crater. The third wave Echo hit the control center. Every server, database, and engineering schematic for the Shahid line was wiped clean in a fraction of a second. By 3:39 a.m., the Voron 12 plant, once producing 40 drones a day, ceased to exist. Only twisted frames and columns remained, glowing faintly under the fog-filtered moonlight. Above the burning compound, the last Ukrainian drone transmitted a single coded message before going dark. Mission threshold complete. 4 a.m., the first satellite pass returned a picture that would not go away. A crater gaped where the main assembly hangar had stood, roughly 24 ft deep and scorched to a radius of nearly 800 wide. A smoke column rose, like a black column into the dawn, stretching more than 1,100 ft before it thinned into the early sky. Thermal maps recorded hotspots exceeding 1,500 degrees C, where lithium stores had burned. By 4:10 a.m., the damage assessment was blunt and immediate. Voron 12's output, once 40 airframes a day, had been slashed by roughly 74%. The logistics chain feeding frontline units was severed. Ukraine's intelligence catalogued the human cost. 22 senior engineers unaccounted for, scores of technicians wounded or missing, and a crisis of institutional knowledge erased in a single night. Insurers and military accountants would later place the direct material loss in the low hundreds of millions of dollars. But the strategic cost was far higher. Across the front, tactical commanders felt the shock within hours. Units in the Donetsk and Luhansk, sectors that had counted on daily reconnaissance sortie found their eyes dark. Convoy slowed, advanced plans were postponed, and artillery units that had relied on near real-time drone feeds went to backup modes, slower, more cautious, less effective. Within 72 hours, Ukrainian forces exploited that gap. 4 coordinated counterattacks in the Kupiansk and Lyman corridors pushed enemy flanks back and seized key junctions previously shadowed by persistent UAV overflights. In Moscow, the reaction was raw and immediate. A midnight emergency session convened in the Kremlin's secure briefing chamber. Voices rose. Equipment audits were ordered. Redeployments of air defense assets were hastened, and commanders scoured for vulnerabilities that a single swarm had exposed. For weeks, procurement teams would chase replacements, while analysts debated whether to disperse production or rebuild the same centralized factories, a decision that would shape the next campaign season. Strategically, the strike did more than destroy hardware. It altered perceptions. Where once the narrative was technological invulnerability, now there was demonstrable reach and precision from an adversary willing to fuse weather, deception, and small network systems. The calculus of deterrence shifted in real time. Supply lines had to be reconsidered, production security reimagined, and the assumption that borders equaled safety shattered. By first light, the Ukrainian operators who watched the feeds logged a single laconic message to command: window closed, objectives achieved. The night had answered the old question of modern war, that clever timing, ruthless discipline, and small units operating in concert can rewrite a battlefield far beyond their size. By sunrise, the fire over Kursk had dimmed, leaving behind nothing but smoke and numbers that Moscow could not explain. The Voron 12 drone complex, once producing 40 UAVs a day and boasting a $70 million monthly output, now lay in ruins, a crater nearly 24 ft deep, smoldering under the gray dawn. For Ukraine, it was more than a strike. It was a message carved in precision, that patience can be deadlier than speed, and silence can be the most powerful weapon in war. In less than half an hour, 36 drones had erased 3 months of Russian production and decades of certainty about what safe meant behind enemy lines. Across the front, Russian units waited for replacement UAVs that would never come. In the Kremlin, the question echoed through a dozen corridors. How did they get this far? The truth was simple. They didn't get farther. They got smarter. This wasn't just about explosions and steel. It was about data, timing, and discipline. About a nation that turned mathematics into warfare and patience into victory. Because modern war isn't won by who fires first, but by who calculates last. If you followed this story to the end, what do you think mattered most? The drones, the fog, or the minds behind them? Drop your thoughts below, because this is only the beginning of Ukraine's quiet storm.